Good evening. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to the 2021 Alzheimer's Association Shine a Light on Alzheimer's Gala. I'm Dave Grams, Executive Director of the Alzheimer's Association Wisconsin chapter. And while our remote surroundings may look a little different than past galas, our mission hasn't changed. In fact, your support has never been more important. Alzheimer's disease and the heavy burden it places on families has only escalated throughout the pandemic. Your generosity tonight will provide education, care, and support for all those impacted, and fund critical research. Thank you for joining us this evening. Your enthusiastic support moves us one step closer to a world without Alzheimer's and all other dementia. And now, I'd like to introduce our Gala MC. From WISN News, please welcome sports anchor reporter Stephanie Sutton. Stephanie, take it away.
Thank you so much, Dave. Such a pleasure to be here again tonight for the Alzheimer's Gala. Some of you may have your purple daisies in hand. I want to just give you a little toast right away. I hope everyone's having a fantastic evening, and I'm glad you're all here for this special cause. Now, Alzheimer's, as we know, is a terrible disease that has affected so many people and so many families. It has affected my own family. My mother's best friend, who started the Brookfield Farmers Market, she had Alzheimer's and succumbed from the disease. My brother-in-law's father had died from it. And my father, there's a picture of him right behind me, late in life, suffered from dementia. So I too know how it affects you and how hard it can be on families when your loved ones just don't know who you are anymore. I can't remember your name. It's obviously very heartbreaking. So we must find a way to cure Alzheimer's. And I want to thank you in advance for your support. And now, well, let's get this party started. We're going to go live for a check-in at Mike and Ellen Schlossman's Gala house party now. And there it is. I think some people are wandering around. I swear it was more crowded a few seconds ago. Hi, we're all going to wave. They're all in the back there. I hope everyone's having a good time there. We've got gala parties happening all over the state tonight, not just at Ellen and Mike's house. Now, doesn't this group look like they're having fun? Let's give a big shout out to the staff and residents at St. Paul Elder Services in Kaukauna. Check out those awesome signs, the thank you for your support signs and the balloons, and thank you for being with us this evening. Don't they look like they are having a good time? And now I want to introduce a man who's very well known in the Wisconsin sports community. For 40 years, Paul Brown has been the voice of Badger men's hockey. But what you may not know about Paul is that his life has been forever changed by Alzheimer's disease. Will you please welcome Mr. Paul Brown?
The National Association is running an ad currently that says the first survivor from Alzheimer's is out there. To me, and I think to everybody, that's an important message to hear because it's recognizing the tremendous amount of great work that people are doing to find a cure for this horrible disease. The sooner the better, because the impact it has on people's lives who are dealing with it is truly devastating. Karen and my world changed forever on March 2nd, 2007, when she was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. She was only 59 years old. The journey we traveled in dealing with her disease, it's tough to describe. A couple words that come to mind are unimaginable, inconceivable. The toll that it takes on the people and families involved emotionally, mentally, physically, financially, can be catastrophic. Now, my passion in life was broadcasting, and I absolutely loved it. I tried to continue to do the broadcasting and take care of Karen at the same time. And after about 4 years, I realized that not only was it affecting my work, but it was affecting the quality of care that I was able to give Karen. Therefore, I had to make the very difficult decision to retire from broadcasting to take better care of her. It was the right decision. I've never second guessed it, but at the same time, it took away my passion in life. Now, over the years that we did spend time together and I took care of her, good days, bad days, happy times, sad times, days where I said, I can't do this anymore. Days of hopelessness, depressed, scared, angry. And Karen was an independent person. And I realized that if I couldn't take care of her anymore, I was going to have to move her to a facility. I promised her I would never move her to her facility. But two situations that came up over time made me decide that in her best interest, despite that promise, I had to do it. One was one day I went to my doctor. He came into the room and he sat down next to me and he said, Paul, who's going to take care of Karen when you're not here? Because he could see what was happening to me. The second situation involved the condo we live in right here. I was sitting in a recliner, and about 30 to 40 feet away, we have a dining room table. And behind that dining room table is a mirror. And as I'm watching television, all of a sudden I hear this, get that blankety blank woman out of the house. Get her out of here. She's pounding on the glass with her fist, looking at herself saying, get that woman out of the house. I walked up behind her. I put my arms around her to try to quiet her down. She turned around, she slapped me, and she said, you're trying to kill me. You're trying to kill me. That's the day it broke me. And I made the agonizing decision to move her to a facility. And when we moved her into that facility, she wouldn't go in on her own. We developed a plan to walk her in there, which I did. And after about 5 minutes in the memory care unit, I turned around and I walked out and left her there. That was the toughest day of my life. And as she progressively got worse in the disease, you could see that my best friend and my wife was going away. And one that I'll never forget is Karen loved to fish. And before, about 3 to 4 months before she finally passed away, one day we took her fishing. And we set her up on the pier. And I put the rod in her hand. And here's a gal that all of her life loved to fish. It used to drive me crazy because all she wanted to fish with was a night crawler and a bobber. She cast it out, but she wouldn't let it sit there, giving her an indication with the bobber moving that she had a bite. She just continuously reeled it in. After a while, I just gave up and go, okay, that's the way it's going to be. The day we took her fishing and I put the rod in her hand, it only took a few seconds to realize she didn't know what it was for. She didn't know how to hold it. She didn't know how to cast it. And she didn't know how to reel it in. That day was one of the saddest of my life. But that's what this disease does to people. And I want to thank all of you for being involved. Your contributions and commitments have helped make a difference in terms of resources, research, clinical trials, programming, fundraising events and donations, education programs, and the 24/7 helpline. But we need your support and your continuing help. And I thank you very much for your past involvement and hope you'll continue to do it in the future.
Paul, thank you so much for sharing your very personal and heartbreaking Alzheimer's journey with our guests this evening. And as a fellow sportscaster, I find it truly inspiring that you're using your voice to bring concern and awareness to this devastating disease to communities throughout Wisconsin. I just want to thank you again. Very heartbreaking. Paul's story underscores one of many tonight who have gathered to raise money for the Alzheimer's Association and their important work to bring an end to this devastating disease. And now please join me in welcoming back a man who delivers it every year, and he happens to be my daughter Kate's favorite theater teacher at Brickfield Central, also our auctioneer for the evening, Dan Pronley. Dan.
Thank you, Stephanie. I actually feel like I'm sitting behind the news desk. I think we switched places for some reason. We have
you
to
look
stop
good.
that.
You look like Mark Bain a little bit there, yeah.
Don't tell Mark that.
Okay.
I like working with Mark too. All right, so I want to introduce you to a few items that are on what would have been the live auction tonight. Now, one of my favorites that is available, I think it's item number 100. It's a Tony Bennett painting. Now, if you didn't know, Tony Bennett, who has been living with Alzheimer's since 2016, as a child growing up in Astoria, New York, one of his first career ambitions was to be a painter. And this passion for art has been much a part of his life, as well as loving music and performing. You can bid on the work of Tony Bennett, the gifted painter, who signs his work with his family name, Benedetto, excuse me. Now, this is a very special item. Currently, I think it's sitting around $1,000. Don't miss that item. Get in there and bid on it. The second one you want to take a look at is the David Yurman necklace. Now, this is a chatelaine collection, perfect fusion of David and Sybil Yurman's combined art, the marriage of a sculptor and a painter, form and color. Now, this is sterling silver. It has some diamonds, 0.08 total carat. The pendant is 14 millimeters. It's adjustable length, 17 to 18 inches, and it does have a lobster clasp. Again, very special item. I think we've actually would have been doing that one on our raffle, but we can't this year. Now, this next item is very exciting. This is a pontoon party on Lac La Belle. Have the happiest of happy hours on a pontoon on Lac La Belle. You get to enjoy the unparalleled hospitality of the Schlossman family with a sunset cruise for 6 people with cocktails and appetizers. Now listen carefully, no need to drive, as you get to stay really close with a $500 credit for the Delafield Hotel, where the host will pick you up and drop you off. You also get a gift certificate to Revere's Wall Street Tavern, mutually agreed upon date with the hotel, the host, and the winner. Do not miss that item. The next one is an evening in Sri Lanka with a chef's dinner for 8. Now, you get to travel to Sri Lanka for the night with this authentic dinner for 8 people, hosted by home chef and Alzheimer's Association supporter Gauri Rodman. People clamor all the time to dine at her table, and this is your opportunity to do so. Sri Lankan food is the marriage between Thai and Indian food. Get ready for the deep, spicy flavors with curry, ginger, garlic, lemongrass, and coconut milk. Now, this experience includes dinner for 8, hosted at the chef's home in Whitefish Bay, appetizers, dinner, wine, and dessert with rice, 2 types of meat and fish, 3 vegetarian. There's a lot here. Mutually agreed upon weekend night between the winner and the host. Some experiences that they've done before have gone for $4,000, so don't miss that one. Here's an exciting one. You want to get out of the house. We all do. This is a La Crosse stay for 5 nights on the rustic Black River. Getaway for 5 nights in a La Crosse home right on the Black River. There's kayaking, there's fishing, there's biking, there's a dock for boats. This is a 3-bedroom, 2 full beds, 2 twin beds, 2 bathroom, that's very important, 2 bathroom, home sleeps 6. Next item, Pilates therapy with friends, magical 1-hour Pilates class and brunch for up to 10 people at an elegant Lake Michigan home. Includes champagne, brunch. Surprises not included in this description are also included. Date to be mutually agreed upon by the winner and the venue and the donor. Now here's another very exciting one. This is an Adrian Amos helmet. This authentic NFL helmet, been autographed by Green Bay Packers safety number 31, Adrian Amos. Adrian is an extraordinary supporter of the Alzheimer's Association in the memory of his grandmother. Now, this is a full-size helmet signed with a black Sharpie, not a yellow. I mean, you can see it there on the screen. It's black Sharpie. It comes with a certificate of authenticity and would make a great addition to any Packers collection. Now, we encourage you, get in there, bid on some of those items. I do see right now 2 items do not have a bid yet. Get in there, make some bids. I'll come back in just a little bit and give you an update.
And Dan, we purposely did not have an Aaron Rodgers helmet or jersey because let's be honest, folks, we're not sure if he's going to be back here this coming season. But I think I'm staying positive. I think he will be. But Adrian Amos for sure will be back this coming season. Well, anyways, thank you, Dan Pronley. And now it's time for all of you to bid and bid often and make a generous donation to support the Alzheimer's Association. Tonight's Shine a Light Alzheimer's Gala has been made possible by kind-hearted sponsors. You've seen them scrolling on the screen throughout the evening, and I'd like to thank our gold sponsors, Northwestern Mutual and Schlossman Auto Group, our silver sponsor, Baird Martin Transport and Pro Healthcare, Our bronze sponsors, Neuroscience Group, Direct Supply, and Freighter, and the Medical College of Wisconsin. And our media partner, Milwaukee Lifestyles. Give yourselves a round of applause. If you're watching right now, give yourself a little toast with your purple daisy. Thank you for all the sponsors tonight. Well, as the world's largest nonprofit funder of Alzheimer's research, the Alzheimer's Association clearly understands that treatment, prevention, and ultimately a cure for Alzheimer's will only be achieved through diverse research initiatives around the globe. Tonight, we'd like to give you a bird's eye view into some of the important research being done around the country. Please welcome Dr. Diana Kerwin, President and founder of Kerwin Medical Center of Dallas, who will speak with us tonight about Lilly and Biogen's Alzheimer drugs, timeline for development, and FDA review. Please welcome Dr. Diana Kerwin. Doctor.
I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for the invitation, and I'm really happy that everyone's able to enjoy the gala. I know that it's been a strange year for everybody, so I'm just happy we're coming together. When I was asked to give a discussion, I thought it would be good to present something that I am asked about very often, which is basically where we are with drug development and where we are with the next approval of a drug. And I wanted to give you some insights into how that drug approval process happens, so that when you do see some of the news come out in the next few months, you'll kind of have an idea of how that came about. I just want to take a moment again just to say I've got very close ties to Wisconsin. Freighter in the Medical College, I was faculty there for many years, and actually the Southeastern Wisconsin Alzheimer's Association chapter is near and dear to my heart when I served on their board many years ago, as well as I have family ties to Wisconsin, so I'm very happy to be here. So we can go to the next slide. So for many of you may or may not know that Alzheimer's disease, there's been a focus, you'll hear the terms amyloid plaque and tau tangles or tau protein. And those are basically the two pathologies that we know happen in the brain tissue of people that are developing Alzheimer's disease. So this was basically identified by Dr. Alzheimer's in 1906. And since then, once it was determined that it was these abnormal proteins, and it wasn't just normal aging, it was the abnormal proteins, the therapeutic developments really started to focus in on what could be done with a medication to either stop or remove the amyloid protein that's abnormal or the tau formation that's abnormal, which in essence could potentially either slow down, stall, or cure the disease. And so for many of us who are here tonight, and the Alzheimer's Association, as well as we're a lot of the donations that you'll be giving tonight, which is why they're so important, is they do go to fund not only the research side of this, but also the side of how to guide the FDA or guidance for the FDA on what it could do when these drugs do become available. And so the FDA often looks to the Alzheimer's Association to provide guidance from a patient's perspective and from an advocacy perspective. So your donations tonight, your bids tonight actually go for all of those activities that are really helping to push the pipeline for a drug development. We can go to the next slide. So this slide is just some terminology that I find gets very confusing sometimes. So I showed you the slide that's very complicated, which is the amyloid beta and the tau protein that develops in the brain tissue that we know is what starts to happen in the brain, which is why it's not normal aging. When someone does start to show signs of memory loss or changes in their brain function. So the terms that we use, though, are not really the pathology terms. What we use is memory loss, or we use cognitive impairment, or we use the term dementia. And oftentimes we use dementia and Alzheimer's disease as one and the same, but they're slightly different meanings. So Alzheimer's disease is what happens in the brain tissue that starts to cause the decline. The dementia is actually the clinical syndrome. It's what the person presents with outwardly outside of the brain tissue that is what is a sign that there's a problem or there's a process going on in the brain that's not normal aging. So although Alzheimer's disease does tend to start with the pathology in the brain that then causes a decline in the brain tissue in certain areas, most likely affecting short-term memory loss. For some patients, it can affect their word finding or language abilities. It can also sometimes affect their ability to see things. We call it visual spatial abnormalities. It can cause changes in behaviors. And so oftentimes those are the clinical signs of Alzheimer's disease process in the brain. And it would be called a dementia if those findings are severe enough that the person's unable to really function in their daily life as they used to. So it's definitely a change from their baseline. So Alzheimer's disease can lead to a dementia when it gets to a severe enough stage, but not all dementias are Alzheimer's disease. There are other dementias, which is why it's so important to get anything that you see or that you notice a change in brain function in someone who's getting older. I would not chalk it up to just normal aging, but do see a physician about it because there are other dementias as well. And it's important that we keep that in mind because sometimes they will present slightly differently. The Alzheimer's Association, although it is named for Alzheimer's disease, it is for Alzheimer's disease and all dementias. And so it is meant to be an umbrella to cover patients and families that are dealing with Alzheimer's disease or the other dementias that can happen as well, such as Lewy body dementia, frontal lobe dementias, vascular dementia that some of you in the audience may be familiar with. So we can go to the next slide. So currently, the FDA has approved therapies for the treatment of Alzheimer's disease and actually even Parkinson's disease dementias, as you can see on the slide. So these are the medications that have been around for quite a few years that we use in clinical practice, and they are considered the gold standard. They are not considered to be disease modifying, meaning these medications such as donepezil, which used to be called Aricept, there's something called memantine, there's something called Namzaric, and there's other drugs that can be given and prescribed currently that are meant to really try to alleviate or reduce some of the symptoms that present during the Alzheimer's process. So these medications can be very, very valuable, but we have learned that they do not tend to stop or completely slow down the progression of the disease. But they did go through the FDA review process, which is what I'm going to describe now for what's going to happen with the medications that are coming to the later stages of development, where they're actually presenting their data for approval and going to the FDA. So we can go to the next slide. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Food and Drug Administration. They do have the FDA actually is present for our safety. Its mission is basically safety and efficacy review of all medications and other things that come out on the market, food substances and other things. But we're going to be most interested in drug development and why the FDA would be taking its time to review, why they give certain timelines and when they'll give a decision. And we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll go to the next slide. So there are divisions within the Food and Drug Administration, and the drugs that are being developed for Alzheimer's disease go through the Center for Drug Evaluation and Research, or CDER. And CDER actually is the one that's going to have a meeting in June, mid-June, to decide about the approval for Biogen's aducanumab. And basically the CDER is, again, the mission is to review all medications of, are they safe to be given to humans? Does the company that's developing the drug have safety data to show us? And has the company done research enough in clinical trials to show us that giving this medication has some type of clinical benefit? Sometimes that benefit can either be a change in a biomarker, such as reduction in amyloid, which is what was seen with Biogen, or it can be something that's clinically meaningful to the patient themselves, which is such as improvements in memory or stabilization in memory, reduction in the progression of the disease state or loss of function. So that's what CDER is looking for. We can go to the next slide. And this is just a slide to remind us that the Food and Drug Administration actually through legislation, through patients and families pushing for the Food and Drug Administration to allow for reviews, to basically have set dates that they give out so that people know when this will be reviewed, it's in the public domain, but also having faith in the system that they are reviewing a medication for safety so that when it does come out, we know that we have a drug that's going to be safe and efficacious and beneficial for the patients that we want to help with it. And go to the next slide. So the stages of drug development, this is the part where it's going to get a little confusing, and this is a whole new world. When we get into clinical trial development, there's things called an IND, which is an investigational new drug. So when a company has a new agent that looks like it's promising for Alzheimer's treatment, it will do some research on it. Sometimes it's animal research, sometimes it's other research. It'll gather data on that, and it'll go to the FDA and say, we'd like to look at this as a new drug. So now it's called an investigational new drug, or IND. From that point on, it goes through phases of clinical trial, phases 1, 2, and 3. Once they get to phase 3, which is where aducanumab was with Biogen, and that's where Lilly's drug is as well, which is why it's of interest tonight, They get to that later stage. That's where they're really developing their package of data to present to the Food and Drug Administration to say, we believe that we have a safe, efficacious drug. Here's our data. We would like approval for a new drug application to be able to have this prescribed in clinics. And go to the next slide. So this slide is a bit more of a timeline of really how long does it take to go from a pre-IND to a new drug application? Many, many years. And I think that's sometimes where we develop our frustration of wishing that we had better therapies faster for Alzheimer's disease. But again, in order to meet that bar of we want safe and effective medications, they have to go through a lot of rigorous science and research that will be collected and presented. So basically in the left side of the slide in the blue area, it's what we call preclinical, where a lot of information about the drug itself. Will it work in an Alzheimer's setting? Will it, won't it? Before it goes into human beings, we want to be sure that we know what type of toxicity or side effects it might have. And also, does it show that it has a signal to potentially benefit? So right now, when you look into the side that says clinical trials, and it says phase 1, 2, and 3, Biogen has gone through phases 1 and 2, presented some data, actually decided to halt their study for a while, but then started to see that patients were actually improving clinically. So they went back to the Food and Drug Administration and said, can we actually go back and look at this? We think there's something beneficial here. And there's many other medications that are also in these phase 1 to phase 3 areas of development. I'll show you a slide later about how hopeful that is, because we have a lot of opportunities. I know Maria Correa likes to talk shots on goal. We have a lot of opportunities to develop therapies in this area. And what we're going to talk about tonight is just what's going to kind of happen with all of these as they come to the end of their development phase and potentially going into the clinic. Go to the next slide. So this is just a little bit of a timeline about what's occurring with Biogen. And I mentioned that the Center for Drug Evaluation and Research is having a meeting in June. And that's where they've sort of set the timeline that they'll make a decision about whether or not Biogen would be set for approval. And during this period, they're looking at all the data that Biogen has presented. So as I said, Biogen had phase 2 data that showed that it reduced amyloid, and then it actually had stopped the study, but then they started to see that the patients that had received the medication started to show some clinically meaningful benefit. So they've actually gone back and gathered more data, and that's what they're presenting to the FDA. So the FDA will be reviewing this in June, and it's called a PDUFA date, and it's something that you'll probably see come out in the newspapers. I think all of us are very interested to see how the FDA will view this. I know that there's been patient advocacy forums with the FDA about whether or not this should be approved, whether or not we believe it will benefit patients with Alzheimer's. We all want something that will cure the disease, but we definitely don't want to have something that comes out that won't help our patients. And so we do want it to know that it has the science behind this to show us that it will be efficacious. We can go to the next slide. This is the slide that I mentioned. It's very busy. Don't try to read too much out of it. This shows you, this is actually from Dr. Jeff Cummings, who puts this together every couple of years about all of the medications that are in the pipeline for the treatment of Alzheimer's disease. And the top green wedge is actually all of the monoclonals, which are the amyloid antibodies that are in the different phases. And that center circle is actually all the phase 3 medication. So phase 3 tells you that you have a lot of medications that are coming to the phase where they're going to be presenting data to the FDA. And there's going to be a lot of these reviews that will come up. Go to the next slide. So one thing about all of these clinical trials is that I know at my center, we do multiple clinical trials for multiple dementias. We need a lot of volunteers. I know the Alzheimer's Association, the other thing that they're very instrumental in, not only in funding the research around the country and internationally, but also funding ways for you to become familiar with what clinical trials are available in your area. They actually have a trial match website that you can go to, but that's also what your support tonight is going to help fund, is helping us all stay within the research community and active and helping to develop the medications. We can go to the next slide. So what happens if Biogen does get approved or doesn't get approved? How that decision will impact us? If it does get approved, the Food and Drug Administration will also have to decide if it's approved. It'll also tell us who can get the medication. It won't just be that it can be given to anybody. The FDA will likely have some parameters around it, telling me as a physician which patients I will be able to give it to as far as who it would be, who's most likely to benefit from it. There's also going to be a cost question as far as what insurance will pay for it, how much it will cost. There'll also be a question about who will be able to prescribe it. Will it be your primary care doctor, or will it be specialty clinics? And then the other question is, well, it is an infusion medication, so will this be given in a hospital or can it be given in an outpatient setting? And what if it isn't approved? And I think the point I want to make tonight is the hope and the promise of all of the medications that are in development tell us that what we've learned from Biogen and what we've learned from Lilly's drug, we do hope that they're going to be efficacious and approved. But if they aren't, I wouldn't let your sense of disappointment get too great, because it tells us what we've learned so much. The next medication, we're going to learn even more, and we're getting so much closer to that goal of having a cure for Alzheimer's disease that it still is a very positive place that we're in right now, that we're so close in having this under review. So we can go to the last slide. And I just wanted to mention, I told you I had close ties to Wisconsin. I wanted to just mention my brother actually in Lake Geneva has Arbor Village Memory Care and Assisted Living, and his staff does a fabulous job. So I just want to say hi to them if they're watching me. And I also just want to thank all of you for being at the gala tonight. And I want to really urge you to really bid on Tony Bennett's painting. That looks fantastic. Your dollars are really helping your family, your friends, your neighbors, our communities, and we're all in this together. So I want to thank all of my patients and families in our community that participates as well. And if you want to learn anything more about us, but I just want to say thank you to all. And I want to pass it back to Stephanie Sutton. And thank you again for involving me. Have a good evening.
Thank you again, Dr. Kerwin. And obviously this is very special and dear to me because my father did, again, suffer from dementia late in life, and I have so many family members also that had succumbed to this disease. So I appreciate all the knowledge that you're sending our way. You can count on, we need to count on you and your help and support for the Alzheimer's Association. Let us now turn it back to Dan Promley. Dan, take it away.
All right, thank you, Stephanie. And you know, I have to tell you, that was actually very exciting to watch the progress that we're making. Not we, they're making. I'm here on their behalf, so that's excellent. So I have a few updates to give you. Then we'll pass it back over. So at the moment, the Tony Bennett painting I talked about, leading bid is at $1,000. So still a little low, get back in there. I remind you that all the items, live, silent, everything out there on the GiveSmart app will close at 9 p.m. tonight. So get in there, make your bids. Now, the David Yurman, let's see, that's sitting at $800. So go check out that one. The Lac La Belle Pontoon Party, hopefully, yep, excellent. Next slide, $980. Now, come on, you can do more for that one. That one will be a lot of fun. The Crosse River Home, thank you, I'll go to that one. The Sri Lankan dinner for 8 is at $800. The next one I think you have is the La Crosse Riverfront Home. That one's at $1,000. You can tell people really want to get out of their house. That's very exciting. And I think, the football, come on, the football's only at $200. With his help last year, he helped raise $120,000 for Alzheimer's. So get in there, bid on that Adrian Amos helmet. Before I pass it back, I remind you that there's, again, 80 or so items out there on the silent auction. Many of them are art-type projects from memories in the making. Those that are living with Alzheimer's. So get out there, place some bids. I'll come back in just a little while and give you an update. And I do remind you, everything closes at 9 p.m. Stephanie?
Thank you, Dan. Again, we need your support. Get out there, bid. Those are some fabulous auction items to bid on. Again, the Lac La Belle Pontoon Cruise and the Tony Bennett painting, unbelievable. And the Adrian Amos helmet. I know he's a former Chicago Bear, but he's now with the Packers. So again, any help would be appreciated. Thank you, Dan, again. Now I want to introduce you to the people who propel us forward every day in our mission to end Alzheimer's. Some of you may have met Carrie and Laren Squiers last year at our 2020 Gala. Karen shared their story of being best friends and partners and conquering every up and down that life presented. They lived a happy life, raised a family and retired, hoping to chase their dreams of living life on the road in their RV. In early 2017, they sold their home, virtually all of their possessions, and hit the road for 14 months until Karen noticed that something wasn't right with Larry. Visits to the doctor over the next 5 years, combined with batteries of tests, confirmed Karen's worst fears and virtually dashed this couple's retirement dreams. Today, Karen and Larry live quietly in a Milwaukee suburb where Larry has taken on a new purpose with a hobby in woodworking. Karen has become his caregiver. Both Karen and Larry have found a lifeline in the support they receive from the Alzheimer's Association to help them through the next chapter in their life.
I was in the fire service for 30 years. The last 10 as chief, and now I'm on a different path. You know, I've been blessed so far as far as the progress of my dementia. I mean, I don't notice it as much as Karen probably does. And
before we hit the road in our RV and sold all of our stuff, I had been noticing some different signs of some things going on with him, and I think that's partly because, I mean, we've been together for 39 years and we have always spent a lot of time together, and we're best friends. And I think I just noticed things early on. So this last year, we ended up redoing neuropsych testing, and it was showing a pretty significant decline in some of his motor function. Then towards the end of last year, we went through a whole battery of tests with an EEG and a PET scan, and then finally the DAT scan. And the DAT scan is where we really got our diagnosis of probable Lewy body dementia. So it's been a journey. And as hard as it is to get that diagnosis, there was also a little bit of, now we know what we're dealing with. So now we can kind of plan and kind of figure out what next. I think it's important that people reach out early. Oftentimes, if people wait, it's just, you're so then stuck in the muck that it's hard to find your way back out again. So will always be eternally blessed that I had the foresight to reach out early in the process.
Especially men. I think we have a hard time accepting the changes that are occurring. And it was especially helpful for me to go to support group and hear and see the other men that were in there that are having the same problems and the same difficulties that I was. And some of those difficulties are about acceptance. And I'm still probably not there 100%. The Alzheimer's Association has made it easier for me to transition from total unbeliever to having a diagnosis. I've been a woodworker most of my life. Carving has become part of my routine, which is fairly important to me. It creates some issues for me if I get off my routine. This is pretty much the process for the scoops. And then I sand on and make the little areas where the branches are supposed to come off. And that's the way it works. For the gala this year, I made, because I really enjoy doing them, I made some birdhouses.
I recognize that it's really, really important for him to have something that's meaningful, something that brings him joy every day. And working with wood has always been one of those things.
I always like to add a little door so that people can get in and clean it out once in a while. Wrens like to have a fairly clean nest, and that's what this is. This is a wren house.
Because the association is so important to both of us and has played such a big role in our lives, that I just really like to encourage people tonight to go and actually bid on these one-of-a-kind items that Larry has created, especially for you, as kind of his way of, and our way of thanking you for your generous support to helping people like us get through this journey.
Wow. What an amazing story. And I actually had the privilege of meeting Karen when we were together. Was that 2 years ago now? Wow. I have to remind you that one-of-a-kind Wren birdhouse is available for bidding. Right now, that bid is at $350. I also want to share, when the camera showed the picture, you saw him open the door for the clean out portion. Did you notice there was a ladder in there? There's a ladder inside the Wren house because don't forget, Larry was a fire chief. So how special is that he puts a little bit of himself into that? Now, also, if you didn't hear this earlier, we have added 6 of those hand-carved wood scoops. They're for coffee or candy. Prices right now are ranging somewhere, and there's 6 of them out there on the silent auction, somewhere between $80 to $105. They're very, very special. I encourage you, get out there, bid on those as well. Let me just see, where are we at for the bids? Tony Bennett painting at $1,500. The Lac La Belle, hey, that's gone up. We're at $980. That could be getting a little bit further. We want to make sure that they have some fun on that. The birdhouse I just mentioned, $350. The necklace, up to $800 right now. The Crosse Riverfront home at $1,000. The Sri Lankan dinner is at $800. And again, that helmet from Adrian is only at $200. So get in there, get some bids. Now, if we were doing this in person, we would have had the moment where Karen gets up and talks again, or some other proponent of why we need to do what we need to do at this moment in time. So this is where we would do Fund the Mission. I would stand up and I would ask everybody to raise their paddles at different numbers, and we can't do that this year, obviously. But on that Give Smart app, you have the option to press the button, and there's a donate portion. And when you get to that donate portion, I encourage you to stop what you're doing right now. You can bid on all those things later. Stop what you're doing and go to the donate portion and Give Smart. If you press that button, you'll see some dollar amounts already preset. There's $2,500, there's $1,000, $500, $250, $150. There's also a very special button, an other button. I encourage you to consider that, and I'm going to get back to that other button in just a second. Now, in years past, when we've been together, I have stood up there, I've asked you to give, and you've all given very generously, and we still need you to do that tonight. Now, I have 2 very special things to tell you, and then I'm going to talk about the other button. Before we started the program tonight, we had over $10,000 already in the Fund a Mission portion. So thank you very much for all those that have already donated. I want you to get in there and add some donations to that. And secondly, before we started our event this evening, we also had an anonymous bidder who came forward and said, you know what, I feel so important about this mission. This is not a match, by the way. This is their generosity saying, we'd like to give $30,000 towards that mission tonight. So if you add the 30 and the 10, yeah, we're at 40 already. So I encourage you, get in there, press 2,500, 1,000, 500, 250, 150, or let's talk about that other button. If there's another number you have in mind, 5,000, 10,000, 30,000, get in there and push that button. I did an event a couple of weeks ago, and it was in person, and a lady raised her paddle and said, I want to give $397. I said, thank you very much, $397, we'll take it. I said, why $397? She said, because I've been locked in my house for 397 days and I'm finally out. So whatever number is important to you and can help support our mission, I encourage you to press the button, whatever it is, 2,500 other, and help us out. Don't forget, the bidding stays open till 9 p.m. tonight. There are 80 plus items, memories of the making, memories in the making, excuse me, as well as all those live items that would have been up in a live auction. So get in there, place those bids. So with that, I'm passing it back to you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Dan. I want to thank everyone for their support and everyone being here tonight. And again, this disease has affected my family personally, so I'm thrilled to be here and help support the cause and to fight the end of Alzheimer's disease. Now, the Shine a Light on Alzheimer's Gala is wrapping up in just a few minutes. While the online program portion of the evening is coming to a close, our gala is far from over. Again, as Dan just mentioned, the auction is open until 9 p.m. Central Time. So please continue to bid. Again, some of the awesome items that are up for auction: the Tony Bennett painting, the Adrian Amos helmet, and of course that gorgeous Wren house and wooden scoops, so lovingly crafted by Larry Squiers. If you haven't yet had an opportunity to support our full mission through a donation of any amount, you still have plenty of time to get that donation through the Give Smart website. We also want to give a final tribute and thank you to the sponsors and media partners of this Gala of 2021. We are extremely grateful for your continuing support, especially to Northwestern Mutual and the Schlossman Auto Group, and also to our many volunteers, but especially Ellen Schlossman, Margie Hood, and Therese Kabizi. Ladies, give yourself a round of applause. Very exciting. If you're lucky enough to be a winner of one of our auction items, you will be contacted by the Alzheimer's Association in a week, and they will arrange a receipt of your item. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. It's been a lot of fun, and let's do a little toast here. Well, let's do the save the date for next year, March 8th, 2022. Let's hope this is all post-pandemic, and let's hope it won't be virtual next year, although virtual was kind of fun this year. Virtual, let's hope it's in person next year, the Alzheimer's Gala on Tuesday, March 8th. We're looking forward to seeing you all in person. And thank you for attending and being a part of this in our vision of ending Alzheimer's disease. Again, a final little purple daisy toast. I think this is a great idea. Had to get a little sip in there. All right, let's close out now with the cheer from our friends at St. Paul's Elder Service. I want to say good night, everyone, and thank you so much for supporting this awesome cause. Thank you.
On behalf of St. Paul Elder Services, thank you for joining us in the fight against Alzheimer's. Woo!